Hello there. What is going on, Armada players? We're going to be building a list today, and this is going to be a real fun one because I have long been a fan of one of the least favorite ships in this game. Of course, it's very recognizable by a lot of people. That's the Nebulon B, and I wanted to do an all Nebulon build that wasn't is completely a joke build. I used to run Akbar Nebulons quite a bit, and I wanted to revisit Nebulons and run a couple of these in a sort of way to kind of maximize all the different titles and have a good time with it. I'm going to be using Ryan Kingston's Fleet Builder. I'll be sure to put a link down in the description below if you want to check out this particular builder. It's definitely the one that I sort of live by, but I really like this particular website. So check out ryankingston.com or armada.ryankingston.com to check out this builder. But we're going to use 4 Nebulons in this fleet. And this is going to be doing kind of a little bit of what a lot of Nebulons kind of want to do. And I'm going to start off, I'm going to build my flagship here. I'm going to be running Salvation, which is one of those, look, it's a good title when you can get it to work. But and that's what I'm really hoping, is that I'm hoping that I can get it to work. And I'm going to be doing a couple of interesting things here. I kind of want my opponent to come to me. I want to be able to point to them. And one of the things that means is I'm going to put quad battery turrets here. I'm going to be putting quad batteries because a blue die is going to be really nice for me to have a chance to get that accuracy. If I do end up with double arc, which is very, very likely with Nebulons, I can actually maximize that. I'm not restricting my my bonus dice to only 1 arc. This can work anywhere. If I'm at speed 1 a lot of the game, then that will be great. And if my opponent just deliberately tries to slow down to not give me quad battery turrets, then that means it's going to be easier for me to line up that front arc shot. So I think quad battery turrets works really, really well with a narrow front arc like the Nebulon in all Nebulons. And so I think it's a really solid choice for a ship, especially like Salvation, who wants those crits. You have extra chance of getting those crits with that blue die, which means you have a better chance of getting double damage. So you actually have a much higher ceiling using a blue die here than a red. So, well, at least a little bit higher ceiling. Plus, there's no blanks, so that is also good. Now, I did say that this would be my flagship. My commander here is going to be Commander Sato. Now, Sato is not everybody's favorite commander, but he is going to allow you to roll basically up to 2 black dice at long range, maybe a third if you did concentrate fire. And what makes that so amazing is that that's going to work very well with the Salvation title, because if you do manage to roll a black critical, you're going to have 3 damage because the black criticals have the hit and the crit. The crit's going to count as 2 damage. It's kind of like double critical, and that's kind of like my brand, right? So I like the Salvation title because of that. It's kind of got that double critical feel. And so this is all very, very good. Now, one of the reasons people don't often like Nebulons is because they're kind of squishy. They don't have the redirect, and they only got the 1 shield on the side. But I like the auxiliary shields team because I like that it's going to potentially get you up to 2 shields on each of your sides, thus drastically raising the survivability of this ship on the first turn. And I think that's really important. Now, I mean, this is a double brace ship. Evades are better than ever now, so I think this is a ship that can survive, especially starting off with auxiliary shields team. Now, one way to make that work is we're going to duplicate this ship. Of course, that's going to just copy everything that's not unique down to another Nebulon B support refit. And this one is going to use a title. And if you haven't picked up on this yet, all of my Nebulons are going to be running a title. So I'm going to run Redemption here. Redemption works really, really well in Nebulon swarms, especially for auxiliary shields team, because this effectively gives you engineering 4. And that is enough to, on the first turn, you have all of your Nebulons do an engineering command. And then all of them, if they have auxiliary shields team, which, spoilers, they're going to, they're going to go up to 2 shields on each side, and that's going to really, really help. And of course, later on, if you need to, get them back, you can always dial up. They're a command 2 ships, so it's not too hard to figure out if you're going to need engineering next turn or the turn after that. So that much is fun. By the way, while I have you guys here, if you guys are new here to the channel, be sure to enter to win that $25 Amazon gift card giveaway. You just have to be a subscriber and leave a comment on this or one of my videos. It's as simple as that. All right, so we're going to be adding officers to these ships as well. So let me add my first officer to my flagship, which I did skip right over, and that's going to be Ezra Bridger. I've just become a big fan of Ezra lately, and it has so much to do with, either, keeping really, really bad things out of the way, or moving, there's going to be times where we need to make sure that the station is at a place where we can get to it, or our squadrons can get to it. We're not going to run that many squadrons in this build, so we need them to be able to maybe heal. He's all purpose, and he's really good, and he's super cheap, right? So I really like Ezra Bridger on board my ships. He's just super useful to have on board. For the Redemption, since Redemption is playing the support role, I'm going to give the Redemption Torin Farr. Torin Farr is actually pretty darn good. She's going to work well with the Nebulons because, hey, they're all running quad battery turrets, right? She won't really give herself the reroll, but all the rest of everything else in the build is going to be running blue dice, and anybody who's close enough to the Redemption is going to be able to take advantage of those rerolls, especially if you get those blue hits and you need the accuracy or the crit. The Salvation is going to really appreciate that reroll if he's close enough to the Torin Farr Redemption. Okay, so we've got 2 support refits. I also wanted to run 2 of the Escort Frigates. So we're going to start off, we're going to put an Escort Frigate down here, and boom. And now this one is going to be, yeah, you guessed it, it's the Yavaris. Of course, as a carrier, the Yavaris did get changed a little bit. Yavaris used to be, unless your squadrons attack twice, and now if you choose for them only to attack, they can just add 1 die to their attack pool. And that's certainly not as good as it used to be, but it is still something, and in some cases can potentially be better. If you're going up against point defense reroute, I'd rather have 1 bigger attack pool rather than 2 1-die attack pools, because then you'd be able to force me to reroll on each, on each of those and stuff like that. So it's a little more balanced right now because you're not getting multiple attacks, and then it's still not bad. I'm going to be running Luke Skywalker as a squadron in this build, and Luke is now just going to get 2 black instead of just 1 black, and you know what? That's okay. That's okay. He's 2 black with Luke is better than than not getting any change, and it's not necessary. It doesn't feel like it's that crippling, but it does certainly help. It helps it become a little bit less toxic to the gameplay. But yeah, it's still a good carrier. It's still a solid ability, and I like it. And this guy can activate 2 squadrons, so that much is pretty golden. So let's go ahead and I am going to also, like I talked about, auxiliary shields team. They're all going to run that, and I'm going to also give this one quad battery turrets, because that's just kind of what we're doing. I'm giving all of the Nebulons the quad battery turrets in this one. Now, I will point out that for Nebulons, it's also a pretty cool idea to consider taking heavy fire zone for the Escort Frigate. That's going to basically turn both of those blue anti-squadron dice into red anti-squadron dice, and that's going to give you some really good anti-squadron range and power. I think that's a really, really groovy option if you want to consider that, but I went with quad battery turrets for this particular build. I guess I could easily see both options. For this one, though, since I do want to kind of go with a little bit of a slower approach, I'm going to be using the Flight Commander officer, so I can resolve my squadron commands after I execute a maneuver. This is going to make sure, in case I end up being out of range, I can just say, you know what, I'll do it after I move, and then hopefully I'm in range then. So having that flexibility allows me to take the slower approach with a little bit less consequences. So I definitely like that. I did say I wanted another Escort Frigate, so we're going to duplicate that. Let me remove the Flight Commander, because the other one's not going to be running Flight Commander. The other one, since there is also a carrier, I'm going to be running Vanguard. And this one's going to be kind of a multi-purpose ship, because Vanguard isn't necessarily the first ship you think of when you think of a carrier. but it can still certainly work. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to give this guy Adar Talon, so I have a lot more flexibility on Squadrons. If I need to activate Luke a second time, it's kind of my workaround. I can still potentially get Luke activated a second time, once with 1 black dice, and then again with 2 black dice a little bit later, depending on how I want to do that. Plus, I've got some different options I can use with Adar Talon too. Once you see my squadron selections, again, it's going to be pretty slim because we're already over 300 points here. But this guy, I'm going to give this one Gunnery Team. Now, you can certainly make the argument for flight controllers. Absolutely makes sense. But if I do get that good shot lined up, I want to be able to Gunnery Team. I want to be able to roll 2 red and a blue out the front arc towards that target. I also, maybe I want to be able to use Sato's ability twice on this one, and that'll be a really fun thing to do. So Gunnery Team will be a really fun option with this ship. And and I think you might be able to surprise some people with the amount of firepower that you're going to be able to bring to the table with a list like this. All right, so now we have a little bit of points for Squadrons. We're at 329 right now. Now, I did say I wanted Luke. I'm going to be going with mostly aces for this one. Not that many Squadrons, but I'm going to try and have a little bit of flexibility with this. So Luke. Of course, we're going to have Luke. Luke is just a really good squadron to have. He's expensive. You're definitely paying for him. What I always liked him with Adar Talon. I always liked him with Yavaris. I think he's one of my favorite Adar Talon targets because of the fact that you're kind of getting... Adar Talon costs 10, so I better be using him to activate a squadron that costs more than 10 twice. Right? So it kind of pays for himself if you can hit Luke with him. I'm also going to run Lando. Lando in the New Millennium Falcon, also a really powerful squadron, and he's rogue, and so he represents a different option for Adar Talon. Of course, Luke is going to be the premier option if I've got that big, heavily shielded Star Destroyer and that's undefended, and I can manage to get extra, shots through shields. But then maybe there's Lando. And since I've only got the 2 carriers, right, I'm going to have 4 squadrons in this build, and I might not be able to always activate all of my squadrons, and I don't want Adar Talon's ability to go to waste, so I might choose to activate Lando and then let him activate again as rogue, and that's kind of a real fun thing to do here, and he can potentially do a ton of damage also. He really, really can. He's got such a nice rainbow selection of dice here, and then he can set one to any face of your choice, which means he can go after a ship, and he can be like, all right, I'm going to roll a double red right there, and boom, 2 damage, and I'm going to activate again. I'm going to do the same thing again, boom, and of course then he's got to fly home. But having him being able to get in position is pretty nice there, and he's pretty survivable too. With 7 health and the 2 braces, he can stay alive in the early game, and then he can spend those braces in the late game when it really counts. So he's going to be really, really fun. We're going to run 2 A-wings. We're going to start with a generic A-wing, and that's going to be just this one right here, because they are fast and they can get into position very easily, and they are great candidates for making Commander Sato work. And then our second one is going to be Taiko Celchu. Now, initially, I was thinking of running Taiko and Shara and then 2 other cheaper squadrons, like maybe a couple of A-wings, maybe I could fit more, but Shara is good, but Taiko is better, and I think he's gotten his value has increased significantly since Intel was fundamentally changed. It's like Taiko's like one of the only people in the game that can just say, no, forget it, I'm moving away. And he's a scatter race too, so he's going to stay alive for a lot longer, and he's going to be a lot harder to kill. And of course, Counter is one of those also really cool abilities where it's an attack and it's rolling blue dice. And Torinfar, of course, gives you rerolls on attacks. And everybody has blue dice here, in some way, shape, or form. And the A-wings have it twice for their anti-ship and their counter attacks. So we've got a lot of blue dice. And this is a little bit risky. Like, this is a risky build. And if it works, these will be your Nebulon All-Stars, your Nebulon heroes. If it doesn't work, well, maybe at least you had a lot of fun playing this list. Because yeah, if you start losing squadrons, if you go up against a really really heavy TIE swarm that starts taking out your squadrons very very quick, you might not be able to really get the Sato abilities off, and that's one of those cases where you need to make sure you keep Taiko safe and then move him in when it's a big shooting turn. You move him in when the time is right, and hopefully park him on an obstacle that's going to make sure the shots are obstructed coming to him, and then you get to scatter long enough to to keep your fleet getting as many Sato black die shots as they can. Okay, so and I'm going to call this a win if I do get a Nebulon B salvation shot out the front and I have more than one black crit. I'm gonna call that a win, because that's kind of like achievement unlocked. Boom! I made the Sato salvation thing work. So that'll be fun. And the ships should stay alive long enough to do it too, especially with Redemption out there boosting their engineering ability. All right, so what are we going to run for objectives in this build? We're going to start with our red. I think one of the biggest weaknesses that these Nebulons have is they don't have any dice rerolls, and so I want to go with targeting beacons here. Now, look, I also see the value in opening salvo. Opening salvo would be a lot of fun. It would be a lot of fun because you could then potentially have a salvation throw. If you had concentrate fire and had a squadron in play and all the right stuff, you could potentially have 5 black dice out the front arc. Oh my gosh, it would be amazing, right? But it'd only be one time, and the problem is your opponent gets bonus dice coming back at you also, and that's the bummer. So I'm like, I think I would rather have multiple rounds of re-rolling black dice rather than just a single round of 2 extra black dice. And then what if that shot I had was from the side and not in the front? Then I kind of waste opening salvo on a side shot, right? So targeting beacons I think is going to be my better option here. For defense, I'm going to go with planetary ion cannon. This one's more of a fun one. I just didn't see any of the yellow ones that really made me want to take them, and I think planetary ion cannon's it's a fun one that people usually don't like to pick because it's like, hey, you're getting extra shots on me, and I'm like, yes, I am, and I'm going to need those. And here I'm going to go with superior positions. Now, a lot of times Solar Corona is a little bit of a cop-out here, but I think superior positions could work here, and it's worth the risk because it can get a lot of points. And I like to think that I'm fairly well defended against getting those rear shots because my Nebulons have such a small, narrow rear arc as well. You're going to have a hard time lining up rear arc shots on the Nebulons. And so I think, between, Lando with Rogue and Taiko being able to move wherever he wants, I think, and the Nebulons are moderately maneuverable as well. So I think this will be a fun one too. So this is really it's a fun list. I'm trying to make some things work, and I think you're showcasing how far the Nebulon has evolved over time, because I think this is a solid list, and you've got 4 different ships that while they're all Nebulons, they're all going to behave differently, and they're going to be doing different things. Some are activating squadrons, some are trying to shoot. This one's supporting, but they all have the quad battery turrets, so they all have the auxiliary shields team getting those extra shields on the sides. I think it's a fun build, but I'd love to hear what you guys think. All right, let me know down in the comment section. I want to thank you guys so much for hanging out with me today. This is a 399 point list. It's my Nebulon All-Stars list, and I think we'll have some fun with it. Another thing that motivated me to kind of make this list too was the KDY and the EC Henry Nebulon A, which I kind of put in the thumbnail. It's a kind of a cool excuse to run some different models, and hopefully maybe you'll see it in a battle report here soon. All right, I want to thank you guys so much for watching. Big thanks to my patrons. You guys are amazing and help make this channel possible. If you want to learn more about Patreon or any of the other social media links I have, check the video description below. I'd love to have you join our Discord and become a member of the team. I will talk to you guys later. I want to thank you all so much, and please remember not to eat the cheese when it is old and moldy, unless, of course, you're into that sort of thing.